didn't you give it to the police?
I needed to see it for myself.
Riley Brennan is now missing. She was last seen in Shelby Oaks.
There is a dark and deeply haunted history in the woods of Shelby Oaks. My sister isn't the first to go missing.
What's left in Shelby Oaks is death and rot.
Don't be afraid. You should be proud of her.
Riley. Please, baby. Hear me.
Welcome to the Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Chris Stuckmann. Chris Stuckmann is arguably the largest movie reviewer on YouTube, amassing over 2 million subscribers and being a part of the cinema zeitgeist on YouTube for well over a decade. And recently, Chris Stuckmann kickstarted his first production, Shelby Oaks, and it amassed over $1 million in funding by people around the world. And now, after being picked up by Neon, Shelby Oaks is set to be released on October 24th everywhere. Please check it out, support indie horror, and welcome Chris Stuckmann to today's episode. And get Stuckmannized. So, getting right into it, Shelby Oaks, I think, is a beautiful love letter to early 2000s horror while also being an entity on its own. In the film Dead Silence, instead of a crescendo or musical cue, the scares are often followed by the absence of sound. Something I noticed in Shelby Oaks, particularly with the crickets, is you kind of had a similar thing going with that. I just wanted to know what the process was of creating sequences with tension.
Thank you so much, Sean. Nice to meet you. I think that for me, there's a stillness is something I miss, not just in horror, but just in movies in general. I feel like we've lost this sense of it's okay to be quiet right now. I love the Quiet Place movies for that reason. You know, it's okay to kind of sit in a moment and watch an actor think and sort of lean in. And that's something we really try to do with Mia, played by Camille Sullivan in this film, is just have these moments where she's kind of realizing that she has knowingly walked into an area of danger. And that sort of dawning realization, the hairs on the back of your neck, you know, standing up, being like, I am not safe right now, I think is something that we really wanted to try to achieve. And it's not just with the cinematography, but the sound mix, like you were mentioning. And we spent a few weeks on the Fox lot in this amazing building, sound mixing right next to Happy Gilmore 2, which was sound mixing at the same time, to really just hammer in to, you know, those spots and try to make it sound really dynamic.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's always funny hearing those stories of like the simultaneous, you know, sets and productions going on.
Yeah.
But very, very cool. So Dear Zachary is an absolutely devastating movie. I know that you're a fan of that. You know, it's a project that shows how truth and reality can be more upsetting than fictional. When you were constructing the mockumentary style pieces of Shelby Oaks, you know, what were you thinking of when you wanted to kind of cultivate this idea of like emotional stakes with how it was presented with Mia telling her story to this documentary crew.
A big thing I talked about with Camille was that at this point in her life, her sister's been missing for over 10 years. And when she agrees to do this documentary, and this is all backstory, of course, but like, I think, what we talked about with Camille was you're very, very desperate to get on camera and talk about this at this point, that there's this sense of the world has moved on. The world does not care. And this documentarian has agreed to interview you, and now's your time to sort of communicate how you're really feeling and how you've been feeling. And I took inspiration from movies like Lake Mungo or Noroi, but also I would watch every true crime doc I could get my hands on. And like, Dear Zachary is a big one, which is absolutely, like you said, devastating. There's a part of Dear Zachary that made me flush, like with red, just the blood was just like into my brain. And I think that there's very few film formats other than found footage or mockumentary that can capture that kind of unrefined, raw quality that we were looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know the scene you're talking about in Dear Zachary, because I had a very similar reaction to that. Very devastating. For the movie The Blair Witch Project, I'm kind of hitting these movies that I know you're familiar with, but for the Blair Witch Project, the directors had the cast camp in the woods, and they would direct them by using GPS and stuff and given these supply drops. So did you have a similar process of all the found footage elements, or were you right there with them when they were filming those scenes?
I was with him. I would say I would be about like 30 feet behind our cameraman, and I would have a lot of discussions with Eric, who also plays David and does hold the camera. It's why we gave him a B camera credit in the movie, because like he did shoot a lot of it. And we would have discussions about like, we need to kind of be here in this spot. But I didn't want to like over direct him, because then it won't look raw. And obviously we shot them all with like period accurate gear. The camcorder right behind me actually is what we shot those on. But the interesting thing that would happen that would be funny sometimes is I would be behind them, and I would notice that they were starting to sort of walk to the right, and Eric is panning, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna get me in the camera. And so like I would find like the nearest tree to kind of like squeeze behind, like, oh God, don't get me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So were you the only other one, like a part of that crew? Like, did you really just strip it down to the bare bones where it's just you and them then?
I am telling you that, yeah, it was me and them. There was no one else. Truly no one else. Yeah, and that took a lot of trust, because, we didn't have a distribution deal then, and we didn't have the Kickstarter even then when we were shooting those. And it was literally like, hey, do you want to come out into the woods with me? And we're going to make a movie, and we're going to shoot it on tape, and it's going to be weird. And trust me, I guess. Gratefully, they did.
Yeah, and was that shot after you met Aaron Kuntz and everything, or was any of this done during the Paranormal Paranoids, the little ARG that you had set up beforehand?
Yeah, so this was definitely the brainchild of me and Aaron. Like, we talked a lot about this.
Okay.
And of course my wife, Sam, to kind of like plan this idea where if we can get the movie funded, we'll already have all this stuff on YouTube already. And there's something fun about that, like where you see a movie is announced and you go online and there's already all this stuff. And you're like, wait a second. And it kind of blurs the line a little bit between fiction and reality.
Yeah, awesome. I actually had Aaron Kuntz on a couple months ago on my podcast, and great guy, man. Love that this is getting the big release it is.
Yeah.
The connection you have with this story and your relationship with your sister, you've spoken about it in a bunch of other interviews I have seen. Is this approach going to be present with other projects moving forward? Like not her specifically, but having that sense of catharsis, as you tap into just experiences in general, and even growing up as an ex-Jehovah Witness and all that. Like, do you see this being something present in just any project moving forward?
I think it probably will be, even if I don't mean for it to, because every artist, I think, draws subconsciously from their own experiences. And I have scripts I've written that I've looked back on and I've thought, oh yeah, no, that's like the genre version of this thing that happened. Yeah, no, yeah. And you start to realize that as you create more and more, and you see patterns of things that influenced you in your life or that affected you in your life. whether that be some kind of childhood trauma or something that you just went through. And I also have a script about Jehovah's Witnesses that I really want to make, that is obviously very much so about the way I was raised. And so, yes, is the answer to that question for sure.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I feel like, catharsis with any art, I think there's always something to really appreciate with that and experiencing it. And, kind of speaking of faith, or, even the misuse of it, The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick was my first time even coming across your channel. So this is 14 years ago or whatever. My all-time favorite movie, by the way. And Terrence Malick has a strong sense of faith present in all of his films in a different way. He captures it in this really beautiful way. Whereas, with your experiences with faith and Jehovah's Witness, you're capturing, I would say, the misuse of it, or you've got this other element of it. How important do you think it is to have such integrity with that crossroad between art and belief, or art and philosophy? Because I know Shelby Oaks, it has that personal place in your heart with your relationship with your sister, but that's an extension of this idea of faith and belief and philosophical experience, I guess.
That's a great question. There's something I talked about a little bit with my wife when it comes to our kids, because my kids are 4 years old, and I've wondered, am I going to tell them about religion, and what do I do if they ask me some of these questions that are those big questions one day? Gratefully, I don't have to worry about that right now at their age, but the thing that I've thought about is that I don't want my kids, I want them to understand that religion can be a very, very dangerous thing, but I don't want them to necessarily fear faith. So there's this interesting kind of crossroads where hope and belief can be very, very rewarding. It's just that when the wrong people get control over that, and then start to control people who are sort of chained to it, I think that's where it can get kind of frightening and where things can go wrong. And so it's an interesting balance to try to figure out, I don't want to come off as all bad is religion. So that's very important to me to communicate that, but that there is, like you said, the misuse of power. And this isn't just in religion. This is rampant across jobs, workplace, government. The misuse of power is one of the worst things and can lead to so many problems. But that's why we need people in power who know what they're doing and care about others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's even why I bring up Terrence Malick, because he's somebody that I think captures faith in a beautiful way. It kind of shows the importance of it in some cases, but I think that there's always this possibility of either showing the misuse or the strength of it, and it's that fine line, right, of that Definitely. Integrity. Awesome. Yeah. And this is something I gotta ask everybody I talk to on this series. I do, but what are your top 5 favorite movies, or just 5 that are just so important to you that you could think of right now?
Well, I'll give you my Letterboxd top 4 first, and I will preface this by saying I do not have a top list. It's impossible for me. It's literally impossible. I don't know how anyone does it. I'm so jealous of anyone who can do that and then keep that for when they're 25, they're these are my top 10, and when they're 80, are they really still your top 10? How do you do that? Because we change so much. 12 Angry Men is a big one. The best directorial debut of all time. That was a directorial debut. Insanity. And really quick, Sidney Lumet, the director of that, I think he also breaks that rule that people sometimes talk about, where when a filmmaker makes movies for too long and their last few movies start to not be that great, because his last movie is great. As well.
Is that before the Devil Knows? Yep.
Exactly. That's Great right. Movie. And it's and then he passed away. And it's no, that is one of the best careers of all time. Field of Dreams, adore that movie. I cry every time. It has had a real impact on me emotionally. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is a big one. It's my favorite indie film. I think it's of course, Raiders is perfect, but Last Crusade was like the one that is emotional, that like me, and it's also the one that has transformed how I view it in different times of my life. Raiders has always stayed the same for me. It's always been the same sort of emotional reaction every time. Perfection. But Last Crusade, as a son, when I was young, I got it. I was like this whole relationship with Indy's dad and wanting that approval and then not getting it. And I completely understood that. But now that I have kids, there's that scene where Sean Connery's looking over the cliff and he thinks his son is dead. And when he sees his son's alive and he hugs him and he's like, I thought I lost you. And there's that moment where he's like, oh my God, I've lost him and I never told him anything. Now as a father, that has completely transformed for me, the way that I interact with that movie. And I love that. And then of course Signs, the movie that made me want to make movies, is I'm literally staring at a 27 by 40 poster of it over there on my wall. It's it changed my life.
Yeah.
So those are 4. So you asked for 5.
Oh yeah, one more.
Wow. I'll throw it to The Matrix. The Matrix is another one of those movies that felt like that's my generation's Star Wars. 100%, where it was this game-changing, unbelievable thing that, despite its influences, obviously, like it's very much like Ghost in the Shell is very much imprinted on that film, but it felt so new. And what the Wachowskis did with that is just insane, mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And with The Matrix, and I was talking to someone earlier about Inception, and The Matrix or Inception, these are movies that kind of change the trajectory of those genres when they come out. After The Matrix, you had a lot of movies trying to do the same thing with their action, just as with Inception, every trailer had the everybody was trying to follow that. So it's
the foghorn.
Yes, exactly. So that's great. And then my last question here for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I mean this to represent professional and personal life, either way.
I want to keep making movies. I'm pitching right now. I'm hoping to get the next thing going soon. So my hope is that in 5 years I've got another film out and working on another one and just continuing to tell stories through film. And personally, let's see, my kids will be 9, so hopefully they're getting into some kind of passion of their own, whether that's sports or artistic stuff or whatever it is, and I'm able to help inspire them to continue doing what they love.
Yeah, and I've got a 6-year-old myself, so I feel that. It's
yeah, man.
It's crazy how that becomes like, people think like it's going to be a burden when you become a parent, but no, it's just an addition to your life. Like, you don't think of it as like a financial burden or anything like that. It's just like, no, this is just another thing now that I love and cherish. So
yeah, it changed my life for the better. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. But so I did come up short, Molly, so that's good. But yeah, that's all I had for you. I wish I had more time to talk with you because I could talk movies all day, man. Thank
you, Sean.
Love it. Love to see what you do next.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.